Welcome back to the Forex Form Guide. It's great to have you here. I'm Aussie Dollarman. In this video, we're going to take a look at the major currency pairs through the lens of WD Gann analysis. For my American friends, I hope that you've all had a lovely and peaceful 4th of July long weekend. And whether you're an American or not, it's a timely reminder of the importance and the value of freedom in our lives. And I am very thankful to live in a free country, at least for now. If you're new to the channel, welcome. It's great to have you here. I have put together a short playlist of videos especially for you. And if you do find value in this or any of my videos, I'd really appreciate it if you could drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. It does help me to grow the channel and push this out to more viewers. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the Aussie dollar US dollar, the pound US dollar, the euro US dollar, and the US dollar Japanese yen. It might be a little bit shorter today. I've been out all day and I'm running on very little sleep, but there are a couple of cool things that I wanted to show you, so I made sure that I put this together for you. Before we get going, a quick disclaimer, this video is for educational and informational purposes only. It's not financial advice. Do your own research, trade responsibly. So we'll start with the Australian dollar, US dollar. Again, if you're new to the channel, I use this framework from WD Gann's book, The Wall Street Stock Selector, page 46, where he lines up his charts side by side. I line mine up slightly different again. I have a monthly on the top, then a weekly to the right, and then below that, a daily chart, and then a 4-hour chart on the bottom right corner there. Looking at the Australian dollar, pushing out of our April low, our very strong April low, we're now 3 months up. We were looking a little bit wobbly last month, at the beginning of last month, but we ended up closing the month of June right on its high there. And so far, our first few days of July, not much has happened. You can see on the daily chart over here, probably even more clearly on the 4-hour chart, not much happened during the week. In terms of an outlook for the Australian dollar, I've said it many times, I'm watching early September for a top in this market, and I'm looking for a solid down move, we will say, for the month of September. But there are a few ways that that can unfold. If we do happen to run straight up, on the monthly chart, another up month in July, another up month in August, another up month in September, we should be a fair bit higher here, and then we'd be looking at a drop down into a higher bottom. However, if we were to run down in July and then turn around and either run into a lower top, or even if it goes into a higher top, have a weaker move up there, that's a different story, and that's a much weaker position in terms of form reading for this market to fall away from. If you take a look at the daily chart, obviously it's been sideways for most of the year, the Aussie dollar. We had that great little trade there in April, and then it's been pretty much sideways since then. We've run up into early July over here, and we've just started to pull back on Friday. So at the moment, if you're a swing trader, you'd know there's a swing bottom there. We've run all the way up to the top there, and this is just a little bit of a pullback there. So technically, you would expect the Aussie to go a little bit higher. However, I've got a couple of cycles showing early July through to about the 19th of July for a move on the Australian dollar. Now, that top has come in on the 1st of July. So if that's the top, I'm expecting it to run down to the 19th of July. That's the forecast, but the form reading says otherwise. It says, well, that's not really looking like it wants to go down just yet. And as I said, I'd be expecting it to put in a little lower top on the daily chart before we saw any significant downside movement on the Aussie dollar there. If we look at the 4-hour chart over here, I know this is all one strong run up here on the daily chart. There is very strong evidence that that is over. We've had a run up there and then a contracting run up there. And then basically this run here repeated itself up into this top here and sort of going sideways, lower top, another lower top there. Gann talks about the second lower top. So there's a top. There's your first lower top. He said the second lower top is like a triple top, but stronger because the market couldn't even get up to triple top level. So technically speaking, we would expect this market to run down. As I said, my cycles are pointing down until the 19th of July. But this swing up here just has me a little bit concerned there. You can have a downward cycle, and all the market does is gently drift off. So it's more sideways and a slight downward bias. Not every down move is going to be dropping like a stone. But as I pointed out over here, we do have those lower tops there. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens on Monday morning if we start breaking lows. This low here, this low here, this low here. Well, we are in for a little bit of downside momentum. And as I said, the 19th of July is the next date that I'll be watching there. Another point on this 1st of July top here, if you look at the market this year, we've had turning points in that first week of every month this year. So we had the 6th of January, we had a nice run down. We had the 3rd of February, which was the low before the final low down here. We saw a good strong run up from there for about 18 days after that. The 4th of March was the low for March. The 3rd of April was a top here, and we saw a spike low down there. This was actually the end of a law of vibration cycle, the beginning of a new cycle, and then the market shot back up out of there. We had the 7 May top over here, and a bit hard to see here, but the actual cycle low there came in on the 2nd of June there. That was a Monday. Friday was the 30th of May over here. And then, of course, we're sitting here at the 1st of July. So looking at how the market has been behaving this year, that first week of every month has proved to give us a fairly decent tradable turn in every case. So again, a little bit more evidence that I'd expect this market to run down a little bit. We'll move on to the British pound US dollar, and you can see that monthly chart just continues to chug along to the upside on the British pound. Having said that, we have seen a weekly chart fall short of the range that it made for the last weekly upswing there. So we haven't repeated that range yet. And you can see on the daily chart, we had a run up, pullback, and then a failed run up. And often that can mean the end of that swing up. So if you put these side by side, your weekly over here and your daily there, that daily swing could mean the end of this weekly run up here. Now, if that's the case, you'd be expecting a bit of a pullback there, but you've still got big expanding up ranges there. So you'd be looking at a pullback into a higher bottom and then more upside there. Before we move on though, a couple of interesting things. Firstly, if we're looking at this last range up here and we're comparing it here, obviously we're way ahead in terms of, the market shot up very quickly compared to the run that it made over here. Sometimes a market will do that. It just gets far ahead of itself and then it has to kill time to get back to roughly where it should be. And you can see that over here on the 4-hour chart. One argument you could make is we've had a run up and then a pullback there, and we've got a couple of potential higher bottoms forming here. Another argument that you could make though is that we've had a run down here and then a weak pullback up here, and it's getting set up for more downside. In those cases when I'm not sure, I'll often sit out, but another thing that you can do is you can drop down a time frame, and here's the hourly chart. Take a moment to have a look at that. There's our recent weekly swing low on the 23rd of June. I like to run angles there up to the top of that first initial impulse there, and you can see that's what you would call a 1-by-1. It's not technically a 1-by-1 Gann angle because it's not 1 point per bar, but if we use that as a reference point and then we take half that pitch, you can see that basically gave us the next top there. The 1-by-3 gave us that top there. We pulled back to the 1-by-4 and then made a top on the 1-by-4. Then we pulled back down to the 1-by-8, right there on a 50% retracement of that whole run up there. If you stop the tape there, obviously that's bullish. Then you've got another higher bottom on the 1-by-8 there. Again, it's held that, and it's a high bottom above 50%. That's looking bullish, and you might expect that to go a little bit higher. Then you run up again, and we've just got another higher bottom right on that 1-by-8. Now, that's your third time. Again, we'll say that's a second higher bottom there. And again, it's on the 37.5% retracement now, so it's gained another level there. You'd expect that to run up. But then the rest of Friday, the market's gone nowhere, and then it's shot down right in that final bar going into the close on Friday night or early Saturday morning Sydney time. Now, while that looks weak, of course, we have to consider that obviously Friday was a lower volume day of trading because we had the holiday in the US. So maybe the uptrend will resume on Monday. It'll be business as usual. However, if we start down and if we break below that 37.5 and we break below this 1-by-8 line down here, well, all of a sudden that's starting to look very bearish as well. For me, though, I don't think the pound is ready to break to the downside. I've identified a couple of targets. One is 143 and the other is this 138.60 level. And I think it's just a case of the market's had a strong run up. It's killing a little bit of time and then it will continue up there after that. Even if I'm wrong, if the market does pull back, I think that the monthly chart is showing lots of strength and we're looking for a higher monthly bottom rather than a drop down and collapse in the pound. Let's move on to the euro now. And you can see another strong week last week, another up week on the euro, and we're approaching that 119.16 level that I've pointed out for the last few weeks. On the way up there, you can see on the daily chart, we had a nice strong run up here, just a couple of days down there so far. So again, that suggests to me there's probably a little bit more downside due here. So a sideways, maybe slightly negative week on the euro. Not much has changed though in my outlook for the euro, so it's just a case of watching and waiting. Now, just because I expect this market to go sideways or a little bit down doesn't mean that I'm looking to trade that. The trend is clearly up on the euro at the moment. You've got a strong monthly upswing there. Even if it comes down, the monthly trend is still likely to be up and up for some time because of the strength of this run up here, cleaning out all these tops here. If you look on the weekly chart, it's just been higher tops, higher bottoms all the way up there for a long, long time. Even here on the daily chart, and on the 2-day chart, a couple of days pullback there. Even if we have another down day on Monday, that would only be a 3-day pullback. So there, you would expect more upside there. As I said, I've got that 119.16 target area there. And if the market stops there, let's say it stops there and has a bit of a pullback, that's not just going to fall back in a day or in a couple of weeks. It's a monthly swing. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're in our 6th month up there. You'd expect at least 2 to 3 months down. So as a trader, there's good trading opportunities there. And then obviously if you fall into a higher bottom somewhere, there could be some really good trading opportunities there too. Finally, the US dollar, Japanese yen. As I've been saying for about 6 or 8 weeks now, it's just a matter of when, I think, not if, we're going to break these triple bottoms here. The reason that I think that is, firstly, you've got a lower top over here. And secondly, this third bottom here fell just short of that second bottom. In my experience in the currency markets, the market's almost always, if that was going to be a triple bottom and start running up, A, it probably would have started heading up by now. But B, it would have broken that second low there. Just a bit of a false break, kicked out all the longs, triggered any stop loss orders underneath there, and then had a strong rally up there. That hasn't happened. We're just sitting there. There is a chance that we'll run up to that trend line and make another lower top there. But either way, I think that we are heading down and we're going to break that low there. And I'm targeting 123 or 116 on the US dollar, Japanese yen. In terms of the economic calendar, a couple of days to watch this week are Tuesday and Wednesday. Tuesday for the Australian dollar, you've got Tuesday the 8th of July at 2:30 p.m. We have our Aussie dollar cash rate, where it's expected that there'll be another 0.25% cut in the interest rates there from 3.85 down to 3.6%, with the press conference following an hour later at 3:30 p.m. Obviously, that's going to be a key time to watch in the market, and we may see some volatility around there. Then at midday on the 9th of July, this is midday Sydney time, it would be 2 p.m. New Zealand time, we've got the New Zealand cash rate, which is expected to hold steady at 3.25%. Then on Wednesday night, which is technically Thursday morning Sydney time, you've got the US FOMC meeting minutes, with US unemployment claims Thursday night, and then Friday afternoon, you've got the pound GDP. It's a little bit of a lighter week in terms of economic news, and it wouldn't surprise me if it's not the most volatile week of the year. Just a reminder for those of you on the Gann journey looking to decode Gann's secrets, I do have an audiobook of Gann's novel, The Tunnel Through the Air, that you can find on the channel here, where Gann buried all of his trading secrets and cycles and systems. Naturally, it's going to take you more than one reading to get through there, so of course, the earlier that you start, the better. That's all for this video. Again, if you're new, there's a playlist there for you that will bring you up to speed with some of the things that we look at. And again, if you found some value in this video, all that I'd ask in return is a like and a comment. And if you'd like to keep up to date with my videos, you can subscribe to the channel and click on the notifications button to be notified when new videos are released. I tend to release on Sunday nights and sometimes an extra video during the week. That's all for this video. I hope that you've had a great weekend. I wish you all the best for your trading and your other endeavors for the week ahead. Until next Sunday, all the best and bye for now.